Hey, welcome back to Perceptual Supplements, where I just offer a whole bunch of supplementary knowledge, which goes both ways. If you know nothing about McLuhan, then you're going to get a taste, and it's going to be a wallop through what I'm talking about. If you do know McLuhan, this will help make sense of how to bring his perceptions into the greater discussions and paradigms or concepts or whatever else our modern zeitgeist is discussed in terms of. So we're going to talk about know-how or applied knowledge. This is McLuhan's term for the sort of knowledge which exists in the shared social space, the shared electric social space, and more so mechanical space of the Gutenberg galaxy. Suffice it to say, the knowledge which is sort of unmoored from the real, but which is operative enough and works. And so it becomes know-how, how to do a thing mechanically or robotically or prescriptively or in an enchanted magical sense, because it's not what's literally correct. It's a description of a process which will give the desired result, leaving out all the context of what is actually going on. So, for instance, let's give some pragmatic examples. Machiavelli gave know-how to the prince of Italy 500 years ago, let's say, because I like speaking generally. Machiavelli told the prince, okay, here's how to govern your state like it's a machine, right? Here, it's basically a flowchart. If this happens, do this. If these people rebel, squash them. If those people rebel, you should probably appease them. This, that, this, right? You're no longer relating to, right? The Machiavelli's prince is not relating to his state as the, embodiment of some sort of spiritual figurehead in relation to them on human terms. He's basically working statecraft like a machine, delegating power to various things and just ruling over that. And the apparatus of state becomes more and more, becomes like, say, the hand of the market or the Hobbesian Leviathan and all this stuff, right? All these more and more machinic terms, right? Until workers are like cogs in a giant machine in the Rotary Club or something like this, right? The space within which people coexist becomes rent from the fabric of the traditional spiritual inheritance and becomes enmeshed in the functionality of the machines of the industrial state and working, right? And we get this robotic sense of people. And then Dale Carnegie comes along with How to Win Friends and Influence People in the 20th century. And McLuhan calls him the new Machiavelli, right? America's Machiavelli, actually, because he distills just how to teach people how to manipulate other people emotionally on a one-to-one level as though they were machines. Right? It's turning them into robots by here's the know-how of how to look someone in the eye and shake their hand and be their friend, and you butter them up, right? It's the father of all these terms like the compliment sandwich and all these other ways which we forestall human communication by applying know-how. The biggest source of know-how is, of course, magazines, and on the magazine rack, which promise you 3 ways to do this and 5 steps to do that. Right. 5 steps to losing weight now, fast. Right. This is the expediency and the pragmatic end goal of right. You don't need to learn about metabolism. Just do these 3 things, and it'll get you to the end. And you've cut through the reality of the situation to apply these methodical steps. Right. This is alternatively called applied knowledge and know-how, and you'll see these terms crop up again and again and again in McLuhan, especially the Gutenberg galaxy. So these exist within the sort of spaces which are totally blown away from the physical reality of our world once electricity in the telegraph sort of collapses the largeness of our immediate proximal society, right? Your parochial small corner of the planet becomes invaded with news all over the place, and causality begins jumping around. An event here on this side of the globe can suddenly affect an event that side of the globe, and the human being is cast upon the entire face of the planet through their newspaper, and then, now interactively through a computer screen or Twitter or something, right? So within that space, which has been totally torn apart, hold on a second. Okay, so for instance, let's look at some sort of spatial diagrams which have been created in the 20th century, which makes sense to our 20th century brains, which don't actually exist in real space. Here's one. It's the famous Jordan Peterson chaos and order, finding direction through chaos to back to order diagram that you see in all of his stuff. Now, where is this? What sort of space? I mean, in the Newtonian sense, a space is where objects exist and move around and are subject to physics. That's my home base. I think I'd like to stay embodied in relation to the world as 3 dimensions of space, which change over time. Over time, not under time. That's important in a counter Bergsonian sense. We'll get to that later. But like, where is this? It's like this weird floating abstraction. There's no body here. There's no space inside of it. There's movement and motion, implying a space. You can, there's an ascent and there's a descent into chaos, and ascent back into some sort of ordered statement, and there's some sort of motion between what is and what should be, but it doesn't exist anywhere physical. It's this weird abstract space, which was the creation of media, and our relation to media, our relation to the unreal illusions on the surface of things, and not the things in and of themselves. Here's another one. Mathieu Pajot's. Look at this. We got heaven and earth between spatial cycles and time cycles. There's a million people out there modeling movement and motion and changes in being and changes in our environment and changes in our society in an abstract, imaginary sense, which we are then left to sort of project onto space, right? Here's another one. I picked these 2 guys because they're popular with, the para-academic YouTube crowd, the para-academic intellectual milieu, which has sprung up. But seriously, every cognitive and psychological model happens in these abstract spaces. And McLuhan's work is all about reincarnating you in the actual body in relation to your environment from the immediate out, right? And in that term, in that way, you end up in relation to other people, not by who they are as objects in this strange space, but as seeing them and their particular relation to the environment at large and to you. And you communicate with them through coming to learn how to stand next to them and enter into their perception of their environment, to enter into their space through their perception of the environment. So that's, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next episode on the discarnating effects of electric media. We'll see you then in episode 4. Thanks.